and there's nothing there. Like it was a ghost town.
Like when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like.
And how long have you lived in that house?
2013. We just get something smaller, like Brighton, North Glen. I mean, somewhere that's cheaper.
And then it was like, we're filing for divorce, we're selling the house, and this was like all as soon as they were coming back from North Carolina, like boom, 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 boom.
In the previous video in this Polygraph series, I focused on Tammy's giggly behavior. She acts impressed with Chris and thus makes herself seem lesser than him. This is done to make Chris feel special, as if he's in a friendly environment where he can tell about himself. However, the agent's hope is that he'll tell on himself. Let's see how Tammy's technique continues in the following. But before we do, if you like this video, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, let me know what you think about this interview in the comments below. Let's go for it.
So are you like a pretty techie guy?
No, I don't say techie, but I understand like numbers and math a lot. Like that's like with working on these wells. There's a lot of programming, a lot of setting up these wells to make them run, and like using the numbers, the pressures to optimize the wells is something.
You already lost me. Like I do that job. No, I cannot do that job.
That's why I helped Troy. Like he knows more like the stuff that was like 10 years ago type of thing. And I know more about, I've kind of like grasped some more of the stuff that's happening right now.
Sure.
And that's how like we kind of like work together. He's like, if he has to work on a pumping unit, like, all right, I'll help.
You got this.
If I get working on like a normal well and setting up like setting it up, he's just like, here you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like I will just watch.
But does that translate into like my husband is a techie guy in our family, so like he sets up all our routers, like when I get a new phone, he sets up my phone for me just because he has that brain that I don't have as far as being a techie person. So are you kind of that person in your family?
I can do that. I can do that kind of stuff. I can't like do code or anything like
right.
that. Right.
You're not writing computer code?
No, I can't. 0101. That's all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
Behind Tammy's statements, there's a gender discourse. Discourses are results of the society in which they're created, and they're made up of different words and phrases. In this case, they're a way for Tammy to go along with the discourse that husbands know about technical stuff. This is an effective way of getting Chris to feel superior to her, when the fact is, Tammy is the one outsmarting Chris. Her rehearsed admiration for Chris also highlights that she's a woman first and foremost. This makes the fact that she's also an agent, about to put Chris through a polygraph test, seem like a distant second. She succeeds at turning this into a casual conversation. In the following, Chris tells more about his background, and again we should pay attention to how Tammy continues with the gender discourse, this time in form of a presupposition.
Did you have like any high school sweethearts or like girlfriends from NASCAR Tech or?
There's no.
There's probably no girls in NASCAR Tech, I would imagine, but.
There's like a handful of girls that actually went there, so no, it was like, I didn't have any girlfriends hardly after high school.
Okay, what about when you got done with NASCAR Tech?
Oh yeah, like that, there was girlfriends like that in Mooresville in there, but nothing really serious.
Nothing serious?
Yeah, I met Shanann in 2010.
Oh, 2010?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you guys date before you got married? I'm assuming you're married?
Yeah, 2012 when we got married.
Okay. Dated a couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
5 minutes earlier, Chris gives details about his background. We should pay attention to his lack of concern and also to his own awareness of his role as the quiet kid.
So tell me about, kind of give me a synopsis of your childhood, like what your parents did for a living, you know.
My dad was a parts manager for a Ford dealership.
Okay.
It's kind of like the cars things came
right.
from.
See it.
And my mom, she was like a secretary and notary for a used car dealership.
Oh, okay.
So like yeah, she's
like, born into it.
She sold the cars too, but like she was more of a secretary and notary, and kind of she bounced around a couple different used car dealerships. My dad stayed at the same one, changed the name a little, it changed names. Then he went to like a different one, but it was he did the same thing, and he did like parts manager and body shop manager, and that's where he's still at now.
So how would you say you grew up as far as like your family structure? Were you guys religious? Was there a lot of discipline in the home? You know, like, or who was the disciplinarian in the home? growing
So
up?
like we went to church, I would say not like every Sunday, but pretty regularly, you know.
And what church did you guys go
It
to?
was like First Baptist Church.
Okay.
And I mean, discipline, I was the quiet kid. I was the, you know, I just kind of followed it. I mean, my sister was the rebellious one that always, you know.
You're like, I'm a good one.
It's like I never, like, yeah. And my sister was the one that got the most of she was the one that showed me, like, that's what I don't want to do.
Right.
I would wake up to my mom and my sister pretty much arguing every morning. That's how I went, okay. They're like, I don't want to wear this, I don't want to wear that. I'm like, okay.
And you're like, Mom, what do you want me to wear? I'll wear whatever you want.
I'll just go, if I didn't do it, you know, don't wear it today.
Right.
Kind of thing. But yeah, like, my dad, he was a disciplinarian.
He was?
Yeah.
What kind of discipline did you guys have in the home?
Just, I mean, it wasn't like physical or anything like that. It was just, you know, like, just verbal, like, you know, this is what you need to do. And just follow that. Like, if my dad ever raised his voice, I knew that was like, that was my work phone, sorry.
Oh, okay, I was like,
Whoa, forgot about that.
doing kind of now, I'm not in the middle of the test. No, you're good. You're good. I have 2 phones too, and it's hard to keep track of them, so.
Yeah, my work phone, sorry, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. Okay, so you said your dad was a disciplinarian, but he
Yeah.
just,
I mean, it was verbal, like, cause like, if he raised voice, I knew something was like, okay, that's okay. I'm good there. Like,
right.
This is similar to what Chris's mom had to say about him.
He and his dad went to the NASCAR races all the time. Loved sports. And he was a good kid. There's nothing that would have predicted any of this could have ever happened. I would have never in a million years thought something like this could happen to him. He was quiet, and he got along with people. He was a perfect teenager, tell you the truth. He did not even rebel.
It's worth wondering if this was a role that Chris was told he had, being told he was a good and calm kid, a role that he therefore took upon him, or if it's a role he considered himself to have. Either way, it's always worth noting when someone displays this kind of self-awareness. In the prison interview, Chris characterized himself in a similar fashion. In the context we're about to hear, Chris is asked to tell about the time he spent with Nicole.
Tell us about the time you spent with her.
Well, I mean, it felt like it was, you know, I think, like when you said, like, I was more like a shy guy, it's kind of like I've never, like, been pursued by anybody before.
What's most important to him, obviously, is to establish who he considers himself to be. He does this through parroting the words of the interviewer. The agent, Graham, has previously characterized Chris as a shy guy. With the use of parroting, Chris can emphasize whatever suits the narrative that he wants to create about himself. Chris's focus is obviously himself and how Nicole made him feel. By taking on the role of the quiet and shy guy, Chris can put himself in a passive position, that things in life happen to him, that he's not the one instigating things. It functions as a shield.
So now Chris, we're going to discuss the reason why you're here, okay? So now what I would like you to do is, again, kind of treat me like, you know, someone that has no idea about anything, and that you actually have to start from the entire beginning, like kind of start when, I would say when you met Shanann, just kind of explain your relationship, I guess, just so I understand it, as far as, you know, meeting in 2010 and, you know, when the kids came about and that kind of stuff, and then just bring me up to the point of, you know, yesterday.
It's sensitive to Tammy to stress that Chris should talk to her as if he hadn't told anybody about the case. On a surface level, this is to give Chris a fresh start, but this fresh start is exactly because the agents are suspicious of both his narrative and behavior. So between the lines, Tammy says that it's time for Chris to start telling the truth. Let's see what happens next.
Okay. Alright, so 2010 is what we met. We met pretty much through Facebook because of my cousin's wife. And she like recommended us as friends type thing, and that's how we kind of started talking. And our first date was at a movie theater, didn't really impress her much because like it was actually a nice theater. I didn't really know what I was walking into as far as like I walked in and there was like a doorman and he was all dressed in a suit and I was in camo shorts and DC shoes and I was like, yeah, I was like, okay, hopefully I'm very underdressed for this. But like I walk in and I see her and she's all dressed really nice and like she told me like after the fact, like, man, I hope that's not him. kind of deal, like, because like we know what each other look like, but like I wasn't really dressed for what we were doing then.
I consider this excerpt important because it's almost identical to the way Chris tells the story in the prison interview, only with even more laughter. It speaks volumes about his personality that even when he knows what he's done, he can tell this story as if nothing has happened. Listen to this.
It was like, when we first met, like, it was at a movie theater, and my cousin's ex-wife set us up.
You were dressed like shit, weren't you?
I
think that's what you told me.
Yeah, I didn't know, like, that.
They weren't having any games.
So she was fancy and he was in, like, shorts and tennis shoes or something, right?
Shoes and, like, I should have known the doorman, was in a suit, and I was just like, this isn't good. And like,
was it a theater?
It was a fancy theater, right?
It was in Charlotte. It was called the Epicenter, and apparently they give you like champagne and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, this is a fancy date night theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he came like he was going to a Cinemax,
like I was going to a bar,
like an AMC.
Like a white theater.
No, it was like we just watched a normal movie, but like you can like drink champagne and like have like a Jack and Coke inside the theater and just sit there and just. Whatever, but like, when she first saw me, she was like, I should probably just turn and talk to the bartender a little more. Like, no, I'm not here to meet.
His carefree tone of voice suggests a lack of guilt and remorse. This is yet another indication that his quiet and shy act is just that, an act or a mask. Chris is quick to buy into the informal conversation that the agents are setting up through aligning laughter. He even impersonates his wife. Narratives are effective tools for Chris since they're designed to create a sense of identification between the audience and the narrator. It's a way of getting close to the narrator's thoughts. Narratives also create emotional reactions, laughter, sadness, joy, anger, and so forth. We have already heard laughter. The narrator is like a director and has the power over the characters in the narrative. Therefore, we need to pay attention to who's depicted as the hero or helper and who's depicted as the obstacle or enemy, because these depictions are always closely tied to the main theme of the narrative. In this case, that Chris was the one pursuing his wife, and ultimately that he was unhappy in his marriage, allegedly.
I would always like with her medications and stuff, I would always she had like 8 bottles of medications, so I would always get like her day and nights and kind of like put them all in that little flip open the pill box, all that kind of stuff, and I would always, be around her. I even went to her colonoscopy. And she said after that she knew I was like kind of a keeper. It's like, who goes to a colonoscopy after 3 months with somebody? Right.
That's a little soon.
Well, she asked if she needed a ride. I'm like, yeah. She's like, you want to go colonoscopy with me? I'm like, sure, why not? Like, even sat with her while she drank that nasty stuff all day. Yeah.
Oh. Where she's in the bathroom
That's
all day?
That's a good test.
that clear stuff that doesn't really taste clear.
Chris depicts himself as someone who made sacrifices for his wife, and this depiction is sensitive to him because he uses the adverb even twice in describing how he allegedly helped his wife. Even provides additional details, referring to something unexpected or extreme even. The interesting part is that he emphasizes and thus interprets these actions himself, completely unprovoked. The audience doesn't get to judge. Chris makes the judgment for us, or so he thinks. Let's return to the pre-polygraph interview where Chris describes the second date. As we watch the next excerpt, we should keep in mind that Chris tells all this with the knowledge of what he's just done. Again, this speaks volumes about his personality, that he's this fascinated with himself. Watch, this is rather incredible.
But on the second date, I actually made a mistake again wearing the same thing because I kind of forgot what I wore. But I went to a Kid Rock concert, and I think that's kind of where I won her over because we actually got to the actual concert, and like I forgot my ID, so I couldn't actually get in. So I actually ran back like 2 miles to the car and got it and came back. And I was just like, I was just like soaking wet. I was just like, it was like middle of July, August, in like South Carolina, and humidity and everything like that. It's on Army base. So I just ran back, got it, and everything like that. And then I think it was our next date, we actually went to Myrtle Beach, and like she had lupus. Well, her lupus was really like acting up in North Carolina. So like she had like these flare-ups, joint pains, all that kind of thing. And we were driving back, like she laid on me pretty much the entire way back. And I think that's when like she realized, like, this guy's actually pretty nice, because like he didn't tell me like, all right, get off my lap or type thing. Like I just let her just rest on me the entire way back. And it was like 2.5 hour ride from Myrtle Beach to Charlotte, the Belmont area. But yeah, everything flourished from there. Like in 2011, I proposed to her over in Ocean Isle Beach. Like that was around our anniversary, and I did it right out there on the beach at night. And I could tell, she was extremely tired, and I was like, I just want to do this. I want to do it like today. And she knew like, so why are you being so like persistent to get me like out here right now? I was like, oh, let's go out to the beach. It's a nice night. Proposed her on the beach, said yes, and everybody was rather ecstatic and everything. And
Chris continues in character. Now he's trying to impress Tammy with his parenting skills. Again, it's highly abnormal that Chris, with the knowledge of what he's done, is able to recount these details in this way.
Celeste came out like so fast that like I barely had a chance to go like this, and they moved me out of the way because she just like came out. So it was, Celeste, I was a lot better with Celeste, because with Bella I didn't really know like a lot, like what I should do, what I could do, how to calm, stuff like that, like, burp, swaddle, everything like that, like I didn't, I had like no idea. I just pretty much watched, like, all right, how do you do this? And then with Celeste, it was more of like, that's why Bella kind of like, she's a mommy's girl, right? When Cece was born, it was more like, all right, like I can do this, I can help, like a lot more. That's why Cece is more of a daddy's girl now. And Shanann gets mad because like, all right, don't cuddle her. So it's like having them both around is just like absolutely amazing. They're like 2 peas in a pod. Like, Celeste is more the rambunctious.
Is that like you, or is that like Shanann?
Bella's more like me. She's more of the calm, just like she's cautious type thing.
Next, Chris lies about the site that met him when he got home and discovered that his family wasn't there.
We went inside the house, and car's there, car seats are there, purse is still there, phone's on the couch, like her wedding ring sitting on the nightstand. And it's like there's like no sign of Bella, Celeste, or anywhere. And it's like the police officer, I forget what the police officer's name was, but he was there, and he was just, once we found the phone, powered it up, and all the text messages like came through as far as everybody was reaching out to her and everything, like, hey, what's going on, like, are you okay, everything good? And there's just like, there was nothing there, like, it was just like, it was a ghost town. And everything that was there just didn't make sense as far as like, why, like, what happened.
Liars will often rehearse certain words as part of their narrative, so that when they're interviewed, they sound consistent. The noun ghost town is one that Chris used when he was interviewed by a TV station. The only difference between his statements in this interview and the TV interview excerpt we're about to see is that he almost can't contain his joy.
It's like, it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea, like, where they went. And it's just earth-shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now.
In the following, Chris lowers his voice, and it's even more creaky than usual. This makes him sound grieving, but his performance isn't convincing. We notice that within the first 20 seconds of his act.
And it's like, I was when all my friends like were coming over to give me some support, I knew that, like, all right, like, I was happy all my friends came over to support. I didn't want to be alone at that point in time. Like, this is the time you don't want to be alone at all.
Firstly, notice how Tammy's momentary lack of attention gets Chris to look at her and start over with his story.
And it's like, I was when all my friends like were coming over to give me some support, I knew that like, all right, like I was happy all my friends came over to just.
Thus, he shows that he's more aware of her reaction to the story than actually telling the story. Tammy's short reaction obviously confuses him, and he reinitiates the story with "all right," as if this is a state of mind he now has to resume, exactly as if this was an act. Secondly, he uses the qualifier "at that point in time."
I didn't want to be alone at that point in time.
In statement analysis, it's understood that subjects inadvertently tell what's really on their mind. That's why we look for qualifiers like these. He doesn't simply state, "I didn't want to be alone," but that he didn't want to be alone at that point in time. This formulation is interesting because not wanting to be alone was a very recent emotion. His family has almost just disappeared at the time of this interview, but the qualifier "at that point in time" indicates that he's already overcome this emotion, that there was actually no point in time where he didn't want to be alone, that he wanted to be alone this entire time. Thirdly, he started correctly with the use of the pronoun "I," but he then shifts to the distancing "you" when generalizing his alleged emotion.
It's like, this is the time you don't want to be alone at all.
This is a pattern in Chris's FBI and CBI interviews that I've pointed out in previous videos. Chris is so far removed from how he should be feeling personally that he overemphasizes with general formulations. Here he even adds "at all" as an overemphasis. It's as if he knows that what he can express for himself using the pronoun "I" is not going to convince the agents, probably because he himself doesn't consider it convincing, because he knows it's a lie. Let's keep watching the same passage. Notice how quiet Tammy is. She lets Chris keep trying to convince her that he wants to find his family. The interesting thing is that when Chris is met by silence, he continues overemphasizing his alleged good intentions. This comes across as trying too hard, and it's a red flag in police interviews. Furthermore, we note how he praises Agent Graham. Praise of law enforcement in a situation like this before a polygraph test is another red flag. A more common emotion for someone in Chris's situation is to think that law enforcement isn't doing enough.
And my friends are supporting me all through this, and I just want to find them. I want them to come home safe, like wherever they are, I hope they are safe. And I really hope they can just come home. The FBI agent, Graham, he's been really helpful. I mean, he didn't tell me what leads they have for today, but I'm hoping that it leads to them coming home. Because just being in that house and not being able to tuck them in, it's heart-wrenching, it's earth-shattering right now, because those are my kids.
He says, "I just want to find them." Just is a dependent word used to compare the thought the subject expresses with another thought which they don't express, the opposite thought. So Chris unwillingly tells us that he doesn't want to find them. He knows the personal consequences of finding them. Also, this should be absolutely unnecessary to convince anyone about, if in fact he were genuinely interested in finding them. Heart-wrenching and earth-shattering, aimed at persuasion, and for that exact reason, it's not persuasive.
If it's earth-shattering, I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like
Chris continues with "those," which is so consistent in these interviews that we can conclude that it's a way for him to distance himself from his actions, and thus his family, who reminds him of his actions.
Those are like you made those kids, you know, like, do you have kids or anything? It's like,
3 of them.
So like, just not being able to, like, you know, kiss them goodnight and saying "I love you, Daddy," or "I miss you, Daddy," or something like that. You know, because they were without me for 5 weeks, and I got to FaceTime them every night, and it was just not being able to do anything, like knowing that they were just here and not knowing where they are now it's a nightmare right now.
So, thank you for explaining all that to me. Obviously, I'm have more questions, so I may kind of piece it out, just going back, just so I understand everything. And you kept saying that you thought she was at a friend's house. Do you still think she's at a friend's house?
At this point, I don't. Because all this, like, everything that's happened now,
So what does that make you think of?
it just makes me feel like either she vanished, like, she has the kids and she's somewhere where, like, maybe hopefully a hotel, but I don't think she's at a friend's house now, unless it's somebody I just don't know. Like, if it's somebody I don't know, great. Like, I just want her to be safe.
In the next part of the interview, Tammy addresses financial difficulties.
So, like, we
And
need
how long have you lived in that house?
2013,
Okay, so,
in May 2013.
okay.
So, like, yeah, I went through that, and actually, like, I was, you know, maybe just get something smaller, like Brighton, North Glen, I mean, somewhere that's cheaper. I mean, I know nothing's cheap right now, which is something, but, like, I told her, you know, like, and told her about what I was feeling. Like, I didn't want to text her, I didn't want to call her about, like, a separation, like, really, like, I wanted to be face-to-face with her talking about that. And
So tell me how that conversation went.
it was just about, like, I just don't feel the connection anymore, and that, like, how we were together, like, it just wasn't working anymore, and that, like, the love that we had in the beginning, I don't feel that anymore, and that, I mean, she said, you know, like, it was more of just crying and emotional, and it was...
Chris's hedging language increases when Tammy asks if Shanann was mad. His repeated use of "I mean" indicates that he's uncomfortable. We also note self-repairs, reformulations of self-initiated utterances. Obviously, this question is highly sensitive to him.
Was he mad at all?
I mean, crying like she was, crying like I was, I mean, yeah, I mean, she was upset, but, I mean, it comes with that kind of conversation. Like, I didn't...
Did she accuse you of anything?
I mean, being a woman, I mean, she's like, is there somebody else? I'm like, no, there's nobody else. I mean, this is me talking to you about this. Isn't it like somebody came into my life and took me from you? This is, you know, me talking to you. This is just me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no outside influence coming from this. Like, this is how I feel.
It's interesting to note how Chris had no problem lying to his wife then, as he has no problem lying in this interview. Because as we know, there was indeed somebody else in Chris's life. So somebody did come into Chris's life, which is the direct opposite of what he told his wife. Chris continues being uncomfortable as Tammy's questions become increasingly personal.
Did she seem like she believed that?
When I told her there was nobody else?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, I believe her when, you know, like, I believe that she would never have, like, an affair on me, and she knows that I wouldn't do that to her. Like, we've talked about that before, like, many times. Like,
Has she ever accused you of that in the past?
No.
Has she ever, like, suspected, like, anyone else that you're close to?
Like, way, way, way early in our relationship. Like, you know, when we first got together, and I was still getting messages from people girls that I was friends with, and she'd ask questions and, like, stuff like that. Like, who's that? Like, how do you know her? Like, and I would just, like, you know, not talk to them anymore, just, like, ease her mind type thing.
Was she, like, a jealous person that would, you know, look through your phones, or...
I mean, she had full access to my phone.
I know, but did she?
I'm sure if she used my phone for Facebook, or, like, Thrive, or...
She would use your phone for that?
Yeah, because she would run like some of the Thrive stuff through me. Like, she would, like, make a post for me, something like that.
Oh.
Next, Tammy brings up the financial difficulties again. She's probably observed that this is sensitive to Chris.
So how did the conversation with her, like, how long did it last, would you say?
Like from 4:15 to just, like, closer to, like, 5.
Okay. And I guess I'm a little confused because you talked about that you were telling her, let's sell the house and get a house, like, cheaper in Brighton.
Well, just, like, I wanted to sell the house just to, like, so we can get, like, if we do separate, like, we'd have, like, some money to ourselves, and we could, like, if I was hoping she would stay here, you know, like, because she had told me before, like, you know, if we did separate, like, she couldn't afford to live here on her own. And she said neither could I. I was just like, you know, like, give it a shot, like, whatever money that we could get from the house, like, you know, fix
So
it.
you weren't talking about you guys buying a house together somewhere. It was more like,
We
let's
can
sell it, split it, and then
sell
we
it and
can.
just, like, we can go. Like, we can have some money left over, like, and be close to each other.
Tell me about, I know it sucks having to sit here and talk to someone about all this stuff.
That's what I needed to do here.
Tell me about your financial situation. I know $2,700 is a lot for a house payment.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
How much were you paying for at Primrose?
Barely being able to afford the house is a subject that Nicole was also interested in telling about, the other woman in Chris's life. We should note her hyperbolic language and dramatizations as she addresses Chris and Shanann's financial situation. I will point these out on screen when they occur.
And I knew that those two had been through some financial trouble. I definitely found out a lot more about that situation in the newspaper recently.
Okay, so prior to the newspaper, how did you know he was in financial difficulty?
Because when I went to that house, everything in there is very, 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 very nice. It looks like it all comes with a very expensive price tag. And I didn't say anything to him about it, but I could kind of tell then where I was like just looking at everything like, how do you guys afford this? And
So even if they're making, let's just use the figure $100,000, they're living above their means or below their means?
Oh my God, like,
Way too much.
Way
Did he ever
too
discuss with you any of those issues?
I think he was really frustrated with the situation. He told me, he's like, you know, I feel like my paycheck goes in my bank account and I just watch it go like this. He's like, but it doesn't have to. He's like, she makes it like that. And I was just
So was
like...
he resentful for that?
I don't know if he was resentful. I just think he was frustrated by the fact that they could be doing a lot better financially. And she, from the vibe that I got, had really bad spending habits.
Nicole puts herself in Chris's shoes.
I don't try to like interfere with how those two interact. But I did ask about it because I'm just curious, because I would never put myself in a situation where someone was like, you know what, we're going to live in this house that costs like double what we can afford, and that's how it's going to be because I want everybody to think we're fancy. Because I wouldn't do that. I mean, to me, like, I wouldn't put up with somebody doing that to me.
I will argue that Nicole then becomes aware of the fact that what she's saying might be considered unemotional because she chooses to modify with this.
And I'm not saying that that's what she was doing. I mean, for all I know, he could have been completely lying about this. He could be the one spending all the money.
Sure.
You know?
This is just what he told you.
Exactly.
However, she doesn't continue with this modification. Instead, she continues emphasizing Chris's experiences with his wife, which suggests that this is the information that's most important to her to get across.
You said something about her being controlling or
bossy.
That's
what he said. Bossy.
In like all aspects of their life, or what? Do you know exactly what he meant by that? How that affected him?
I think he was just saying when he voices his opinion, it's not heard. Is the gist of that, which I thought, from what it sounded like from their separation, from them trying to separate, that was a big deal for him, where he was saying that the reason that they don't really get along anymore is because he feels like he's not heard. He says that he comes home from work and he tries to talk to her and she'll just be like, 1 minute, I'm on the phone. Or she'll like scroll through social media and she like doesn't acknowledge him.
We know that Nicole helped Chris look for a house.
Through text message or through conversation, he never said, hey, this isn't going to be financially able, I'm not going to be financially able to do this, or this isn't a good thing, I got these kids. None of those conversations ever came up.
No. I mean, he told me like he had a budget restriction. So for his apartment, and I'm pretty sure this is in the text, and this will probably be in the last couple weeks, he told me $1,100 to $1,400 when I was asking him. Like, because I told him I'd help him do homework. I was like, you do some homework, I'll do some homework, we'll knock this out, because if you guys are for real putting the house up, you got to figure it out. And so that was his budget. And I remember asking him, I was like, you sure you don't want to just get like a house? And he's like, I never thought about a house. I'm like, yeah, you can rent houses, man. Like, it's a thing, and he's just like, I don't know if I can afford that.
Again, we ask, what's linguistically important to Nicole? It's important to her that we understand that she was helping him, but from a distance. She's not talking about an apartment or a house for the two of them, but only for Chris. We don't get a feeling that this was much more than a platonic friendship, or maybe more appropriate, a guardianship. This is further emphasized when she says,
So if you want to know days, I would probably honestly just start at like Sunday and work your way forward. I mean, all the rest of that stuff, it's just like the small talk of like, hey, this, you know? I mean...
And your relationship building through the...
Yeah, I mean, like, and if you go like maybe like a week further back, like there's times like I was trying to help him find an apartment, like just for him, not for me, but for him and his kids, to get set up. And like there's times where I'm like, well, where's your wife moving to? Like, how close is she gonna be to you? You should be within like 30 minutes of your kids, so they're close, and like you want to be close to their school and close to your gym, and like...
Obviously, this distance taking is self-defense. Let's return to the pre-polygraph interview. Tammy continues asking about the expenses that Chris and Shanann had. Obviously, this isn't Chris's favorite subject, which is the reason why she keeps asking him about it. Financial trouble is often a motivation when someone like Chris does something terrible.
I think last year we paid like $25,000.
So what is it?
Or like
usually a
18,
month?
20,000.
What's your bill usually?
With two kids, I think it's close to like $500 some dollars a week.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. What other bills do you guys have that are big?
Surgeries from Shanann's neck surgery.
What happened to her neck?
Disc that was compressing down. There was like nothing, like there was no like fluid that like the spinal cord with the fluid to support it was just bone on bone.
Mm.
And she has a scar like right here.
Did she have insurance when that happened?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was
just whatever's left.
It was like over $100,000 surgery.
So how much do you guys have left to pay on that?
She covered all the finances as far as like that.
How long ago was that?
That surgery, it was last, it was earlier this, I could look on my phone, I thought it was it was last year because I remember Christina from Hawaii came to help, and it was during football season.
What other big bills do you guys have?
CCs, like endoscopies. For EOE, because she had acid reflux.
Okay.
And allergy testing, and CC had a clogged tear duct. And
I had that too. That was not fun.
Yeah, tubes in their ears and their adenoids removed.
Oh goodness.
So there was that. In the following, we should note that Chris mentions the car that he sold for less than he owed on it. Shanann criticized him for this. This kind of critique is worth noting when dealing with subjects with guilty knowledge. In order to emphasize the role as quiet, shy, or likable, they'll frequently mention situations where they were criticized by their victim.
So what other big bills do you have?
I think that was mainly what we paid, and some credit card bills.
How much do you think you owe on credit cards total?
I guess like a random guess. I'm gonna guess about $8,000 to $10,000.
Okay.
I have like.
You don't do the finances?
No, because I mean, yeah, because she knew like from when she met me, like the one stupid thing that I did was that I sold my 4-wheeler for less than I owed on it, and she was like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. You're never touching the finances. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that.
Right.
Since money is often a motivating factor, Tammy keeps asking about money in the following excerpts.
Okay, so what about any other bills or any other...
In between the surgeries and the kids' low operations and credit cards and the house, just like utilities, stuff like that. And we did file for bankruptcy like 2 years ago, just because of everything that was like on our plate.
And how much was discharged in that bankruptcy?
I'm not sure.
Like just bare ballpark. It includes you know, cars and, you know, all sorts of stuff?
No, cars wasn't part of it, because she was with LaBelle at that point in time. I think it was mainly like a lot of like maybe furniture that we owed on, just everything that, I mean, it's hard to put even a ballpark number, honestly, because it wasn't medical. Like medical bankruptcy is different than just normal bankruptcy, I think. So like none of that was touched, and the house it was still, you know, that wasn't part of it either.
You didn't touch that, yeah.
No, so it was just like anything else that was like outstanding or pending. But I couldn't even put a ballpark on it. I really don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. So how would you like classify your financial situation?
I mean, with everything that we have going on, I mean, like when the kids like go back when they're going back to school, it'd probably be like pretty much like check to check, if you know, because she had taken out a loan on my 401k as well to catch up with the house payments.
So are you current right now?
I just got paid August.
Okay. When was that due on the 1st?
It's due by the 16th.
By the 16th? Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it for now. I'll return to this interview, I promise. Subscribe to stay updated. Thank you.